Okay, here we are with our last episode of the season 9, episode 7, I do believe. Yes, it says 7 on the blackboard, so I'll believe it. This was our first study on honeycomb. And there were many, many places that I could have started with this. And I did consider starting it further along in the journey, perhaps doing it on overshot, which is where we see it woven so many times. But I decided to pull back and show that honeycomb can be woven on, well, with 4 shafts as 2 blocks. Honeycomb on 4 shafts could be woven with 4 blocks. Anything that's based on a 2-2 twill, we can expand the units and turn them into little cells. 1 2 1 2 1 2 2 3 2 3 2 3 3 4 3 4 3 4 1 4 1 4 1 4. Expand that, get that twill line in there, and turn them into cells. Change our tie up, and we can weave it in honeycomb. So that was one way to do it, but I scaled it back for this first episode on honeycomb and made it about an A unit and a B unit threaded 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 against 3 4 3 4 3 4 3 4. So basically monk's belt. Basically the same way that we could thread deflected double weave. So many of these weave structures are all interlaced, all interconnected on 4 shafts. You know, we could do this on huck. Huck, the way I thread it and teach it for 4-shaft weavers, allows us to see how closely connected it is to 2 blocks on opposites. 1 2 1 2 1 4 3 4 3 4. That's one way of drafting huck on 4 shafts. That's very similar. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 4 3 4 3 4 is 5 thread odd numbered unit, but it's very similar to 3 4 3 4 3 4, which is what we use for monk's belt and what we use for deflected double weave. The thing that changes up in all these weave structures is the tie up. And this gives me the opportunity to remind all 4-shaft weavers out there that with 4 shafts, we have an unending numbers of ways to rearrange 1, 2, 3, and 4 on top of those 4 shafts. All the different weave structures that we have studied over the past 9 years, so many of them are just 4-shaft weave structures, and it is a different arrangement of 4 things on those shafts. But there's 14 ways to manipulate the tie-up. 1 and 3 against 2 and 4 gives us plain weave pretty much across the board. There's exceptions. 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 1 and 4. That gives us our 2 2 twills. Then we have our 1 3 twills, which is 1 against 2 against 3 against 4, and we have our 3 1 twills, 1 2 3 2 3 4 3 4 1 4 1 2. Everything goes around and around in a circle. When we truly own that as 4-shaft weavers, we can see relationships between all these different structures. And it allows us to kick the lid off the box and play. So that's where this episode ended up. I didn't know where it was going to go, but clearly once I got started, I had a vision. And so that's what this episode is all about. It ties together so many things. I certainly did not weave every possibility, but I had fun. So it's as much about connections on the 4-shaft loom as it is about honeycomb. Anyway, we did weave 2 pieces that are pure honeycomb on a large, long float. Our goal was to create a piece of fabric that has these lovely little cells at the bottom. We have the ability to weave an A unit, 1 2 1 2 1 2. We just weave the 1s and the 2s. The 3s and the 4s aren't doing anything. They're all floating up in the air, and that's what's happening in the B's. And then we can change our tie up and weave the 3s and 4s, 3 4 3 4 3 4. The 1s and 2s are up in the air. They're not doing a darn thing, and that's what creates these 2 different looking cells. If you come right in here, Al, for the big zoom. Right. Here we have a cell weaving plain weave, and right next door to it, we have big, long vertical floats. Those are the 3s and 4s doing nothing. And then when we look at the next pair down below, here our 1s and 2s are all up in the air, and our 3s and 4s are just weaving back and forth, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, and they're weaving plain weave. So basically that's it. And what creates this wavy line, this thing that makes us think of honeycombs, is 2 picks of plain weave going selvage to selvage after every cell that we weave. And when it collapses, when it comes off the loom, those places where we have the floats, where all the warp threads have been up, they sink down, they squish together because there's no weaving in there to keep them separated. So that really is a quick summary of what honeycomb is. And here we are doing the entire exploration on just 2 blocks, 1s and 2s against 3s and 4s. Over the projects, I think these cells are 12 threads long in a unit. In the other project, we shortened them and they were 8 and 4 threads long. So we learned an awful lot. We learned that we could have a dark colored warp, and if we made our wavy line with a bright color or with something that has a lot of contrast, not a bright color, gold's not a bright color, but it has a great deal of contrast to our dark warp, which was aubergine and ruby. Our cells are the same color as our warp, our wavy line that outlines the cells, which gives us our honeycomb look here. They have a strong contrast to the dark. And if we reverse it, the treadling is identical, except that now my cells are woven out of something with greater contrast to my warp, and my wavy lines are the same color as the warp. So they recede, and it makes this look like we have little floating lozenges. Anyway, so much fun. Our first project has extraordinary hand and drape. This is our baby alpaca woven at 15 ends per inch, 15 picks per inch. I opened it up, showed how easy it was to control weaving in the weft. We used triple strands of that alpaca for our thick thread because the honeycomb really shines when we have a thicker outline thread around the cells. We did it in 2 colorways, same warp with 2 colorway options for weft. This one is a little hotter. Marigold and fuchsia on our aubergine and ruby warp. Super fun. Super, super fun. Beautiful drape. The reason we went with alpaca, or that I went with alpaca, is because I wanted to challenge so much of the rating I had read about honeycomb was that it was a one-sided fabric. It had a right side and it had a wrong side, and the floats on the back side made it not possibly functional. Possibly. So what's a way that we can stabilize a long float, that we want to get it under control so that we can celebrate this backside, which is strong vertical or strong horizontal striping in it? Well, if you weave it in something that shrinks, it all locks together. So that's what we did with this. This is completely stable, and it is alpaca. We have in the episode an example of how far you can felt alpaca. Sometimes people think that you can't full alpaca very much, that it's not going to be very responsive. Well, I took a piece of this warp, which was 19 inches on loom. I felted it until it was half that size. So we now know that this alpaca fulls, and it fulls to any place you want to stop the process of fulling, from a little bit of fulling to a little bit more fulling to full on felted fabric. So that was a very important exploration and discovery for everyone. Anyway, that's the scarf project. If you want to make some scarves, this whole episode was done on 4 shafts because I just felt it needed a good, strong exploration on 4 shafts. And then the second project, I was so inspired after Terry Madison's little bag episode that I figured, well, You know, I might not be ready to tackle a bag, but I sure could tackle a cushion cover. Fold a piece of fabric in half and put a zipper in one end and sew down the sides. I think I can do that. So that was the inspiration for the size of this project and this stack of cushions that are here on the table. I started out wanting to follow all the rules of pure honeycomb, where we have our floats our units are all threaded on 1s and 2s against 3s and 4s. But I wanted to bring some of the other elements from the School of Weaving into this project, which is, you know how much I love to frame things with the border. So I have framed this side and this side with a different threading than I used in the center. This border, the borders on both sides, have A units that are 8 threads long, alternating with B units that are only 4 threads. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 against 3, 4, 3, 4, over and over and over. The browns are the 3/4, 3/4. The pinks are the 8 threads. Then when I got into the center section from here to here, I threaded that as 8 thread units all the way across. So my A's and B's are equal, and I wove this weaving the cells square, trompes rit, all the way through. So this is super cool what happens when you go back and forth and you weave your A's over and over and over. And then here they're alternating A's and B's. We get a nice frame around the whole piece. I wove the colorways, trompes rit, and all the instructions are in your PDF. Now in this piece I have 2 picks of plain weave between every cell. The next piece I wove, I decided to change that up and weave only 1 pick of heavy between all the cells. So if we look right here, the cells are a little more distinct because there's not the 2 picks. And they're circular because I wove them square. I wove 8 picks on 8 picks. You can change that. You can make them narrow. You can make them rectangular. All of that is up to you, but it changes the look. So this was woven much the same as the previous one, but with just a single pick. What happens if I repeat those units over and over and over and don't go A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, and just go A, then B, 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 and that's what has created this. These are our A's, our B's, our A's, our B's over and over and over, and our A's down here. So it gives us columns, gives us vertical ribs sort of in here. So that's super cool. What if this is all too busy for me and I need to give myself a rest? What would happen if I don't have so many color changes and I just do the division of space on the whole piece in 3? This is my hem up here. And after that, the division of space is in 3. And what if I intersperse bands of plain weave between the A unit and the B unit? So all the little cells are alternating A's and B's all the way down here. But in between every A and B that just has a single pick of plain weave around it, I have bands of plain weave interspersed. It calms the whole thing down. So it's still the honeycomb structure, but it's a variation on a theme. So after I wove this piece, I decided to do some other things. There were other workshops from my past that I haven't gotten around to sharing with you. One of them was called Pushing the Boundaries of Plain Weave 3. Now we have done some of the things from that workshop, but there were 2 tie-ups that we used in that workshop that I had never gotten around to sharing with members of the School of Weaving because gosh, there's just been so much to do. One of them was where you take either an A unit or a B unit and you have a weft float going across the front of the block and a weft float going across the back of the cloth, which means that all the threads that are encased aren't ever weaving. So that's what this is. This whole little section right here, this whole little row has got floats on the front, but it also has floats on the back. And what's inside is not weaving at all. So it makes the fabric completely reversible. It's the same unit on the front and the back that have floats in exactly the same way. We control that with the tie-up. What we ended up with was some pretty cool things happening up here in the corner, some curvaceousness in these little squares up here. That was a bonus that I'm going to work with and expand upon. All these things that you're given as little gifts that you go, oh, that's so cool. I've never seen that before. I've never noticed that before. I'm going to take that and run with it. Always gifts in our weaving. Another tie-up was a tie-up that was in a book that I showed during the episode, and I'm just not coming up with the name right off the bat, so I'm not going to fuss about it. Watch the episode and you'll find it. There was a fabric in there called tufted weft, and so I pulled that out, and we did this whole piece with what is called tufted weft. So it's basically plain weave, but we have these nice big floats going across our A's and half of our B's. And what's cool about this particular tie-up is that the back side, I think, is just as interesting as the front side. We get these nice little hints of color. We get a little bit of texture, but it's absolutely beautiful. So then I said, well, let's change the tie-ups one more time, and we'll bring the back to the front and the front to the back. I'll add 2 more treadles. I've got 6 treadles on my 4-shaft loom, so 2 are going to manage my plain weaves. 1 is going to put a tuft in A, the other one is going to put a tuft in B, and then I have 2 treadles left over, so I'm going to change the tie-up, and I'm going to reverse the tie-up so that I can bring the back of what was happening in A to the top and the back of what was happening in B to the top. And that got me this cushion. So here we have plain weave with the reverse tie-up up here. We have our tufted weft in the center and our reverse tie-up down at the bottom. The back has plain weave. Just a lovely plain weave play, the stuff that we learnt in season 2, brought forward and overlaid here. So we did that, and then I decided to go back and weave it like monk's belt. So in monk's belt, we played with all kinds of ways to cover things up. We have a repetitive sequence created where we throw a pick in on 1 and 2, and then another pick on 3 and 4. We don't put the tabbies in between so that they pack down, and it makes it look like we have a solid line. The power of a line is something that I'm always trying to bring to my weaving. A solid line that goes from one side to the other, we can get that if we forget the plain weave and just pack it down. We also have some nice texture in there by throwing multiple picks in the same shed. So these are all techniques that we have learned along the journey in the School of Weaving, particularly from season 2 and 3, where we looked at all of those things as solid design ideas, tools, if you will. And I've brought them all forward. And then the back of this is just plain weave, trompes writ, easy peasy. Now, in our first episode that Lisa Hill did with us this year, she taught us another structure. She taught us turned M's and O's. The threading is the same. It's based 1s and 2s against 3s and 4s. So I decided that I was going to, that's how it was woven on the loom. There's my stripes and my pink on the side. I took her tie-up directly out of the PDF that's in this season's episode 4, and tied it up, 4 treadles tied up to do this, and now I'm weaving it as turned M's and O's. Then, this is how clever I am. This is how this side was woven. I turned the fabric. And I decided that at the top I would weave it like, and so it's still the turned M's and O's treadling, but here I sort of inserted the plain weave selvage to selvage with the heavier thread to frame our cells, and then I just treadled one unit over and over and over to get long vertical lines. So there was so much learning, so much fun. I didn't even go near everything that we studied last year with deflected double weave on solid colors, weaving it as a structure rather than a color and weave thingy. But we could have done that, and I would have had, well, I stopped at 10, 11 pieces. And you know, the last episode we did with Lisa, we brought Joan in, and Joan left behind a whole bunch of willow that was sitting in the corner. And this is the same warp. The willow has pushed everything apart and made it look even wider, but it's the same warp, and I just let it happen. And here we have this lovely runner that's going to go on my dining room table. Celebrating Willow, celebrating Joan, celebrating Lisa, celebrating everything that we do at the loom. So that's it. That's what we did on our very first exploration of Honeycomb. And next year we're going to do another one, and possibly even two. I can see so many places to take this. So that's it. That is our incredible year. And I just want to thank you all for being here and being with us, watching our episodes. What would we be without our audience? We're getting ready and planning season 10. We're already working on that with all kinds of teachers coming back, possibly new things. And that's just coming around the corner. So I wish you all a wonderful Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll see you in February of 2026 for the start of season 10.